Hello again, and welcome back to recertification training for our 2024 recertification exam. We're so happy that you're back for session 2, which means that you are on track to get prepared for the advanced recertification exam. So let's go ahead and dive into session 2 with just a little bit of housekeeping. All right, this should look familiar. As a reminder, the recertification training is done in 2 sessions. Session 1 covered the content that will be on the exam for our core certification, QuickBooks Online certification. Session 2, which we're in right now, builds on session 1 and goes into the content that's specific to the advanced certification. So you should be in both sessions. If you happen to miss session 1, we are offering this webinar a few times throughout the recertification window, so check it out on Accountant University. And you can always pop into the training portal within QuickBooks Online Advanced where you can catch the self-paced training and get caught up there. So either way, we want to make sure that you're prepared and ready to rock for the exam. Quick note on CPE credits. This session is worth 1.5 CPE credits so long as you're here for 75 minutes and answer at least 2 of the polling questions. There will be multiple polling questions, so if you need to step out for a glass of water, there will be multiple chances to catch the polls. Just be sure to answer 2. We will email you your CPE certificate within 2 days of the webinar, so keep your eye out for an email from Intuit at theonlineexpo.com. Sometimes it winds up in spam, so check there if you don't see it. And you can always reach out to our team at accountant_training@intuit.com. We're here to support you. All right, we have a team of trainers working behind the scenes to answer your questions. You can communicate with the team through that Q&A section of the Q&A tile. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. We just ask for your grace and patience as we work to field as many as possible. Sometimes there's a lot that do come through. Now, if you toggle over to the handouts portion of that same tile, you can download the handouts. The What's New in QuickBooks Online handout is the same handout as you had in session 1. So if you already downloaded it, you're good. That said, from this section, you can download the session 2 slides. So please go ahead and download that. You can save it to your desktop or you can open it up to follow along as we pace throughout the webinar. So with that housekeeping out of the way, let me go ahead and pass it back over to Carla, who is our wonderful trainer for the session, for her to dive into the content and what to expect.
It is so great to be with you all again. And oh my goodness, do we have some fun stuff to talk about in this session? We've already met, but if you haven't watched the other session yet, my name is Carla Caldwell. I'm in the Atlanta area and I have Caldwell Consulting and Training, as well as my own firm, Candela Accounting and Advisory. But this is all about QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced and how we can use the ecosystem to really serve our clients and honestly do more stuff inside of our own teams using this great product. So we're just going to dive right on in. So in this first lesson, we're going to be talking about importing subdivided budgets into QBO Plus and Advanced. We're going to be talking about profit and loss forecasting that we can do in QBO Advanced, fixed asset accounting, and revenue recognition also in QBO Advanced. So we're going to dive in right away, getting into subdivided budgets. Now, subdivided budgets, what exactly does that mean? Well, that's when we're starting to divide up the budgets between things like classes and locations and customers and things like that. So this is really geared toward our more advanced clients. First of all, they're budgeting. That automatically makes them a little bit more advanced for many of us, but also being able to bring that in with a more complex division of those budgets. And so that's what we're talking about here. So we're going to dive in first thing into a demo of this. And so let's go ahead and get that started. It always takes me just a second to make all that work. So give me just a moment and we are going to dive into my sample company. So remember, this is my own sample company that I'm using. This is not a real live client, nor is it a sample company that you typically would access when you go to the gear icon and go to sample company. And I did it this way because, of course, that a lot of times we can't import things into that sample company. So we just wanted to make sure and show you all about this in here. So that's what we're doing in this one. Now, for those of you wondering how we get there, so I go to the gear icon and go to budgeting. And then once we're here, I've already been playing around with this, so you know I've already imported a budget in, but I'm going to show you how I did it, and then you're going to be able to see what we can do with that. So once we're here in the budget area, you'll see at the top right where we typically would expect to add new things. You see that also where we get to import in a budget. But I got to make note of the part right below that where it says that you can see how it works and watch a quick video. Feel free to go back and watch that. That's always a great thing to get it again, especially if you see this now and don't have to use it till later. There's going to be a video you can watch right inside the product, which is kind of helpful. So we're going to import budget. Now, when we do this, of course, thankfully, QuickBooks always provides templates that we can use, so that's awesome. But you're going to see we're going to be bringing in a budget type of profit and loss. The selecting of the time period, we would select, which one we're planning to do. And then if it's consolidated, that's the one that is not subdivided, meaning that you just run a pure P&L. All the accounts are listed there on that P&L and you import in those numbers. But if I'm going to do it as subdivided, then we have to tell QBO how we're going to subdivide it. And look, those are the three options: location, class, and clients. Then we have the ability, I'm going to select class. Then we can say which one of these classes or all of them do we want to be doing. I'll just select installation as an example. And then I can click next, and I could download the template if you want to do that. And then of course we just go select the budget that we want to get. I grab that one, click next, and away we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's already there. I'm going to just kind of close out. Pardon me, because I am canceling the import. Normally I would just let it go through, but it's imported in. So let's go take a look and see what it looks like, because like I said, I have it there. So I'm looking at the period that I imported it for. I can compare reference data if I wanted to. I can look at actuals. That's what the reference data is if I'm doing that. Might be better to do actuals for 2023, that kind of thing. I don't know that I actually have data in there for that, so that's why you might not be seeing it right now. Then I can add subdivided budget for, again, multiple different divisions. But in this particular situation that I'm seeing on my screen, it is for the installation class. That's the one that I'm looking at. And so here I can go now and see the entire budget that I've imported in. And so it is going to show up down here in these areas. You can kind of see what's going on. We've done some budgets and so on. So, I mean, not terribly exciting to see a budget in there, except that we're doing it now by class and we can import that in, because that's a really big deal to be able to do that. Then when I go run the budget versus actuals report, I'm running it for FY24. You can now see that I have these classes: accounting and installation. And there's where we can see that budget. And then of course, I can have the total budget amount for all the classes that I may have imported in are going to show up on that report and allow me to see the actual versus the budget. So really important that we're able to do this and be able to have those consolidated as well as class budget. And of course, again, remember, we can also do it by location or by customer. So really fantastic to be able to see this. You can obviously use the knowledge you already have for how you might want to break this down a little bit more using all the various customizations that we can do in reporting. Just go for it and play around with this. And so if you guys don't already have a sample company that you tinker with, definitely encourage you to have one and to play around with this. Because if you have a client doing this kind of budgeting where they're looking at it by class or location and so on, super incredible to be able to play with that, see what it looks like, and put our hands around it, right? Because we all like to test things out before we do it live with a client. So really exciting to be able to see that. So I hope you're as thrilled as I am that we can now import in those subdivided budgets. All right, so back over to our presentation. Our next area that we want to take a look at is the profit and loss forecasting. Now, as we're looking at profit and loss forecasting, this is really going to be thinking a bit less like the budget, which is really a detailed plan of our client's financial targets. A forecast is really looking at future performance based on past information. Now, I guess In some ways, budgets do that too, but budgets tend to remain set for the period they are covering, usually about a year. But forecasts are usually a bit more flexible. They can be generated anytime using up-to-date reference data. So you should consider creating a P&L forecast when you have to have conversations with your clients about their anticipated performance. So really a great advisory conversation to have when we're talking about forecasting. Now, you can create these profit and loss forecasts for up to 3 years right inside of QBO Advance. This is going to save you and your clients a lot of time that we normally might have spent manually exporting data from QBO to a spreadsheet and having to do outside forecasting tools and all those kinds of things. Besides, not only are you able to do this right inside of QBO, but you can be confident that it's using the latest data because it's inside of QBO using that data. And then you don't have the risk of all that manual entry. So if you are going to create a new forecast, you'll need to use an admin or standard all sign-in. So let's take a closer look at that. We're going to do this part in slides, and then I'll pop back out into another demo in just a minute. So when we go to create a forecast, before you get started, there's a couple things that might be helpful for you to know about. It helps if your forecast start date is set to the beginning of the fiscal year, although technically you could start it at any time. So you want to go to your settings and make sure that you go and confirm the fiscal year start date. You guys know all about that, but just really helpful that you are confirming that. Also important that all the accounts that you want to appear in your forecast are in the chart of accounts. Now, I know that was like a real duh moment. We know that we're good there, but sometimes our clients are asking us about things that maybe we haven't put into the chart of accounts. So just kind of understanding what you're wanting to forecast on would be really, really helpful. So just go pop into that and make sure that all of the accounts are there. Now, once you're done, go over to the financial planning on the navigation menu. So on the left side of the screen, there's going to be a financial planning in that gray navigation centers list on the left side there, and go to forecasts. Now, once you've gone there, you're going to see that the period for the forecast will be covered. You can select that from the drop-down list. And remember, you can do it for just the rest of this year, or you can do it for up to 2 or 3 years. Now, when you're deciding to do this, you're going to choose the way that you want to build this forecast. And so you're going to get to choose from previous financial year actuals or an average of them, which is also kind of nice. And depending on the time period that you're looking at and the type of forecasting you're doing, you have a couple options there. If you select the average of actuals, you'll need to specify what number of periods that you're looking at. So the prior 3, 6, 9, or 12 months of actuals, and then QBO will give you that average. Now, if you're using the previous financial year's actuals, the best option is if your client's business is seasonal or varies month to month. If they stay roughly the same, selecting the average may be best. But again, if there's a lot of seasonality, then it might be better to just go with actuals, because then it doesn't flatten out all that seasonality. You know what I'm trying to say there. Okay, so that's just something to kind of keep in mind as it relates to this. Now, you can actually set up rules to automatically adjust the actuals to the amounts that you want to have appear in the forecast. So do you want a 10% growth in income? You can create that. If you want to have a decrease, things like that. So you kind of do this for each of the account types that you're planning to adjust. And then when you're done, you'll click next, and you're going to see the forecast generated right before your eyes, set for the time period that you have going on there. Now, when you go look at this and decide, I might need to make some changes, go to the forecast settings, and then you can save the forecast. But once you save the forecast, you're not making any more changes. Okay. So you can manually adjust the forecast by selecting the cells, but not like the 10% for all income is what I mean there. So you can edit the title of this forecast, kind of play around with that and see what it looks like, and then save and close that. So again, select the rules on the previous screen. Once you save it, those rules are gone, but you can manually adjust it still, and then save, and then you've got your forecast there. So that's really pretty handy to have. And again, Then anytime you want to revisit that forecast, just simply go to financial planning and then forecast. Then you find whichever one you want. On the action column, you'll see where it says view edit, and you can go in there and play with that. Now, you can actually refresh the actuals when viewing or editing it to make sure your references are up to date. So that might be kind of handy, especially if you create that early, say in Q1 of the new year, and there's still a few adjustments that were happening. You could always readjust that a bit, and that can be helpful for you as well. Now, I said at the beginning of talking about forecasting that forecasting and budgets sometimes can be synonymous or fairly close, right? And, we all kind of have some little nuances in our own definitions of what that is. So one of the things that I really like is that once you've been playing around with this forecast, you may actually decide, you know what, I want this to be a budget that I could use and actually run budgets versus actuals. Maybe that would be really helpful as you're kind of getting used to this tool and determining how you want to create the budget. Maybe you have a client that's never done a budget before. You want to walk them through a process. You could go through that forecasting with them and then say, okay, now that we've kind of got it where we want, okay, we're going to kind of put it in, not stone, but you know what I mean? Like kind of save it and make it a budget that we can use for reporting. So that's exactly what you're able to do here. So you would open up that forecast and then select the option to make this a budget. And you can see that in the bottom right corner there. And then you just, again, confirm what period it's for, and then you've made it into a budget. So really pretty powerful. And I love these tools because as we're working with our QBO Advanced clients, they're needing more of this kind of advisory and walkthrough on this type of functionality, forecasting, budgeting, and some of the other tools we're talking about here. So it's really pretty exciting. There's a lot of really good stuff in here for us to be considering as we're talking about our more sophisticated, complex clients, and the ones that are really growing and starting to do some great business decisions and planning and all that type of thing. So really pretty cool there. All right, so now let's take a look at something else that's specifically for our QBO Advanced clients. Of course, you guys know this type of thing already, that the IRS wants businesses to depreciate. They don't just want it, they require it, right? Require businesses to depreciate assets over $2,500, or if they're doing audited financials, they do it over $5,000. So you guys know how to go look up Pub 946 and read all the gory details about depreciating property, but now we can do this inside of QBO. I know a lot of us as accounting professionals may have tools that we're using, but remember, for our QBO Advanced clients, they might be doing some of this type of thing themselves. So as a business's fixed assets grow in number, there might be a lot more transactions linked to their acquisition, depreciation, and disposal of those assets. And so what we see a lot of times is, as these companies are growing, there's a lot more manual workarounds, and a lot of those are prone to error. And sometimes our clients really need that visibility into what's going on a daily, or sorry, not a daily, but usually monthly basis. So instead of having to do a lot of manual journal entries, now clients can add fixed assets and schedule their own depreciation inside of QBO Advanced. So I want to show you what this is going to look like. And we're going to do that by going back to my sample company. So again, give me just one moment on that. And we will head over there right now and take a look at that. So this is where we left off a second ago when we were talking about our budgets. So this time what we're going to do is go to the advanced accounting section in this navigation. Now remember, I have mine right here. You might be thinking, Carla, how did advanced accounting get that place inside your navigation menu? And I'm glad you asked. Remember, there's a little pencil right here, and we can move that navigation menu around. So if you didn't know about that, there you go. So we go to advanced accounting, and then we go to fixed assets. So when I'm in there, you're going to see that I've already added a few in here. Of course, I have to tinker around as I'm playing around with this stuff. And so in this sample company, I've already added an asset into the books. So if you needed to add another one, you simply add an asset, give it the name. If you're using classes and locations, of course, you identify that information. If you want to put in a description, always a good idea to provide information about that. Calling it a desk or a computer, probably not as detailed as we'd like that to be. Now, if it's a non-depreciable asset, okay, you can check that option, but usually we're putting it in here because we're depreciating it. So we put in the purchase price, the date, when it was purchased and when the depreciation should start. Typically, I would imagine the same date, but obviously that could be different. And then we also have the depreciation method. Now, we are not going to identify for the client necessarily which one of these they are, or they may be talking with us and we tell them, and then great. But otherwise, they can look that up, or you can advise them on that, which would definitely be helpful, because our clients are going to not necessarily know the right one all the time. Sometimes they do. We could put in the useful life and if there's going to be a salvage value. Now, once we've done all of this, we can go ahead and fill in the rest of the information. What is the asset account? That's going to be the debit when they purchase that, right? That's going to be the asset it's sitting in. Then on a regular basis, monthly basis, typically, we're going to have our accumulated depreciation account and our depreciation expense account that will need to be done as well. So we would identify all of that, and then we are going to be adding that asset. Now, I chose not to do it live with you today because, of course, if I have to type all that, I'm going to mess it up. So let me show you what that setup would look like. I called it a desk, Carla's new desk. This is how much it was when I bought it, the depreciation start date, and so on. So you can see I just kind of filled all of that out here. Pretty simple to do. What happens is once I have saved or added that asset, QBO is going to go ahead and calculate out the depreciation for us. Now, here's the thing about this though. When we are looking at this, you're going to see that in my case, it started on the day that I purchased it. But what if I am adding in this fixed asset after it has already been purchased? So in other words, there's past depreciation that needs to be recorded. Well, when we are setting up recurring journal entries as an example, we can't go back in time for those. It's like from today forward. Well, the same thought process, if you will, is happening here as well. So any prior depreciation from the start date that you put in for the depreciation, you're going to have to record that as a journal entry for those values. If they're already recorded, double check and make sure they line up to match the values that are here in the depreciation schedule inside this fixed asset schedule area. So all future depreciation, don't worry about it. QBO's got that. It's just the past stuff that you will need to put in as a journal entry. So if you have any questions on that, you'll be able to look here and see that information. So really, really handy to be able to do this. And now depreciation is being recorded from now on out. We don't have to worry about it. And if you have any question about how much that is, you can see exactly what's going on. So in our case, you can see that it started June 30th is when it's going to start. And it tells you also how much it is per year as it goes along through the life of that depreciation schedule. So I really like this a whole lot. Now, some of you are thinking this is fantastic. I love it. But oh my gosh, to do that over and over again for 100 assets, not as much fun. So thankfully, we can go in and add multiple assets and be able to bring those in. And yes, of course, you can import that in. And this can be done very easily. And you can customize those columns right here, decide which ones you want to see or not see, arrange them, whatever. But you would be able to add a bunch of assets at the same time. So really great to be able to do this, and really nice to be able to have all of this in one place. Our client can see it. We're able to see it. Really, really nice to be able to do this. All right. So let me head back over to our slides. And so we've gone through and talked about fixed asset accounting. Let's talk about another area in QBO Advanced that is a real game changer for some of our clients. Now, I actually had this for one of our clients, and the revenue recognition standard, ASC 606, is a GAAP, generally accepted accounting principle, regarding how and when revenue should be recognized. So just for simplistic terms, to make sure we're all thinking the same thing here, we have a situation where, say, a client purchases something that's $120,000, but it's over a year. And that's a pretty decent amount. Most of the time, that's going to be considered material that we wouldn't want to recognize $120,000 in the very first month of that year that we're selling something, when it really is supposed to be over 12 months. So therefore, we need to recognize that revenue across that. So what we've done in previous times is we've had some gorgeous spreadsheets. So now what we want to do in QBO Advanced is not have to do that. Let's let QBO do this for us. So let me pop back out really quickly into my sample company one more time and show you the revenue recognition that we're going to do for that. So back in my sample company, what you're going to see is that first and foremost, we need to enable this because not everybody needs this. So in the gear or cog icon in the top right, go to your settings and then make sure you go to your sales area. And it never moves as fast as I want it to. Like my brain's already there. Come on, let's go. Let's go. It's always my brain goes faster than this. But here we are. And you're going to see in the products and services area, revenue recognition. And I've already turned it on. So make sure you enable that. Then you're going to go into the products and services. So we do that under sales and go to products and services. Now I've already created this for you. So I'm going to show this one to you. And you just create a service item, not a big deal. We, of course, sell this to our customer. We put in a description. We put in the income account that it's going to, whatever the default rate is. And this just, if I was using price rules. But this is the big thing. If you're not seeing this, either A, you don't have it enabled, or B, you're not using a service item. So I recognize revenue for this product monthly or whatever the case is. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We have a few extra fields that we have to fill out. We have a liability account. This is where it's going to be held. So if I were doing this at the $120,000 that I was talking about earlier, it would go here. And then each month, in this case, 12 months, it could be for 24 months or however many months they pay in advance, that it would then start to recognize that revenue for me automatically. And that is what's going to be happening here, getting it out of the deferred revenue and putting it to our income account. So then how do we use this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my invoice. And what you're going to see is that I can select a customer. We'll go ahead and select Carl. We will go in and decide whatever our service date is. Let's say that's going to be starting tomorrow or whatever day we want to select. I'm going to choose an annual subscription. And of course, I'm going to have to choose that 120,000, not 1,200, since that's the number I've been talking about this whole time. And we're going to go ahead and sell this to the customer. They're getting their invoice for that. That's exactly what they've paid. What we want to see is how is it going to be recognized? Our revenue, how will that be recognized? So let's go take a look at that. And you can see inside this new invoice, we have this hidden area, and it even says it's hidden. Thank you. Go ahead and click on view. And now what we can see is a preview of this schedule. So at the end of May, there's going to be only 110,000 left in the liability account because 10,000 is going to be recognized for an accumulated 10,000 in income. Then in June, the liability account will go down to 100 because another 10,000 is recognized for accumulated revenue recognition of 20,000 and so on. And so that's what we would see for 2024. And then this one happens to go into 2025 based on the start date. And there it goes. So really very, very nice for us to be able to see that and understand the schedule for this. I really like this one a whole lot. And this was a phenomenal tool for one of our clients that was on QBO Advanced and had this very thing that he was managing and really, quite honestly, struggling with the number of them and the spreadsheets that he was doing because one little mistake, right? So really powerful to have this option here. So I hope that is helpful for you to understand some of these great things that are going on in QBO Advanced as it relates to these. Let's go ahead and do our very first polling question. So this was a little while ago, but which way can you subdivide a budget? You can do it for locations, classes, customers, or all of the above. We'll give you a couple seconds to go ahead and answer that.
Carla, as folks take their 60 seconds to answer the poll, would love to hear from you how being able to import a subdivided budget tees up your team for deeper, richer advisory conversations.
Yeah, it really has been a game changer for some of our clients. Being able to compare one location over another is really powerful for them. A lot of times just being able to compare the two of them allows them to understand a bit more of what's going on in their budget. They can even manage their team better by doing that. So this is really, I think, where accounting gets kind of fun, where we get to really dig into their numbers and really help our clients make sense of what they're seeing. I think that those are the kinds of conversations I love having with our clients.
Oh, that's huge. So much value in that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go ahead and reveal the right answer. And the right answer is all of the above: locations, classes, and customers. All right. So we have covered all about importing subdivided budgets, creating depreciation schedules, having revenue recognition schedules, and even being able to create a profit and loss forecast, which of course even lets us create a budget from that. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
And that brings us to a close of lesson 1. So now we'll move into lesson 2, which is about smarter working in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So we'll dive deep into that advanced SKU.
All right. We've already been there a little bit. Now we're going to go deeper. So we're going to be talking about in this section all about multiple conditions and approvers and workflows, the new workflow run history, and we're going to be talking about new bill pay roles. We alluded to that a little bit in the prior session. We're going to dive a little deeper in that here, and then we're going to be talking about custom roles. Now, we're going to be staying in slides for a few minutes here, so buckle up. We're all good to go, and let's dive in and talk about these workflows in QBO Advanced. So when we go into this area, we're really talking about those workflows that are all about automating repetitive tasks that sometimes can be a bit time consuming if we weren't able to automate those. So with these new updates, QBO Advanced clients can now set up the workflows with multiple conditions and with multiple sequential approvers. This is going to be super powerful for those of you already using these workflows and probably get your wheels churning on who else might need to be using these. So to create a workflow, you're going to see on the left navigation on that gray bar there that we can go to workflows and then select my workflows. And I know, shocking, in the top right corner, that's where we create workflows. So while you're here, you're going to be able to set up these different workflows. Sometimes it's just a reminder. Sometimes it's notifications and invoicing or requesting approval or updating invoices. So when creating these, you can set up rules that start with what is the action that needs to be done, followed by the conditions for when it should be done. So do this when this, right? So what we're able to do is have multiple conditions in the workflows. This kind of reminds me of bank rules where we have like 5 different conditions on a bank rule. So it's the same type of thing. So when this happens or whatever, you get to have those options. That's the same type of thinking that we have here on these workflows. So once you've completed the action and conditions for that workflow, simply save and then you can turn it on. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So the approval workflows are set up a teensy bit differently than even that. So there's going to be a decision chart structure, starting with the event of an invoice being created or edited, and then you're going to follow a series of cards which set conditions and determine what action should occur as a result. So in this example that you guys are seeing on the screen here, you're going to see that invoices require approval from different approvers depending on the invoice amount. So to add a condition to one of those steps, you would simply select the card and you'll see the option there and it's circled, or I guess that's a square in pink that says add condition. So go ahead and select that, and that's how you would add this condition. So no matter what your client's organizational structure is, they can use this flexibility in these workflows to set up the bill approval workflow to ensure bills are reaching all the necessary stakeholders before it gets paid. This is a big one for us. I don't know, you may have heard me talking about my firm that we do some things with nonprofits, work with a lot of those, and sometimes we need to have different approval letters based on the amount that needs to be approved by the board. And so if more than one approver is needed to approve a bill or an invoice, now that can be easily done. So in this particular example of a bill approval workflow, to add multiple approvers at any stage, select the relevant do this card to open it. Then you can select the people that need to approve the bill, And if you need to remove one, there's a little X next to them if you need to remove one. The big thing here is to make sure that the order the approvers appear in this list is the actual order you want the approvals to happen in. In other words, the approval will happen in the order listed here. So this is a sequential approval that is obviously going to be used. So just kind of important to understand that piece of it. Really exciting about this one because being able to say, okay, once this person approves, then this person approves. I don't need to get to Jacqueline if Carla hasn't approved or vice versa. Depending on what the order is, that's what we want to have it look like. Okay, now the other thing that happens when we are working with workflows is to make sure we understand how they're being used. Sometimes workflows stop. They don't progress. There's a little bit of a bottleneck somewhere. And so we had a hard time trying to figure out where those bottlenecks were. And I'm sure if you were using this, you could relate to that. So now what we're able to see is a workflow run history that allows us to see a history of the workflow you have created and kind of figure out what's going on with that. So in order to run the workflow history, you would go to the workflow page, and now you're going to see a new tab called Run History. Now you're going to see all the workflows that have been run, and you can see who created the record. And under workflow status, you'll see the status of each workflow that has been started. And if there's any errors, you will be able to investigate that. You can also select View over in the action column on the right side to see the details of a specific workflow. So in those three dots, what you're going to see is the ability to edit, run history, or delete a workflow if needed. So really simple to be able to go ahead and run that history out of the action column off the three-dot menu there. Now, once you select the ability to look at that history, then it's going to show you all the instances when that specific workflow has been run, and you'll see what the status is. So as you can see, there's one there that says error. So that might be the one you want to dig into, or one that started or completed. Kind of investigate a little bit there and see what's going on and what might need to be happening to correct any issue that's happening. What I really like about this is that it's all date and time stamped. You can see a detailed history of the workflow, where it sits, who the owner is, and all, so that if there is any issues, you can dig into that and correct anything, or maybe do a gentle nudge to somebody that might need to be jumping in there and making it happen. All right, so let's talk about those bill pay roles. That's the next area that we wanted to look at. And again, we talked about this a little bit in the course certification, but it's really important to understand these roles as we get into QuickBooks Online Advanced, because again, those are our clients that are going to be a little bit more sophisticated and might need to have more users in there, and these customized roles are going to be really, really helpful for them. These new roles are going to give our clients confidence that the checks and controls that we have in place are really going to be used when we are creating, approving, and paying bills, which I know for my clients, that's going to be a big deal. As a reminder, the roles for managing bills are going to be bill clerk, bill approver, and bill payer. Now, remember, they're also available to QuickBooks Online Plus and Essentials clients who also subscribe to the QuickBooks Bill Pay Elite plan. So again, this is automatic in QBO Advanced, but if you have clients in Essentials or Plus and they're on QuickBooks Bill Pay Elite, they will also have these roles as well. So let's talk through each one of these roles. The bill clerk is going to be able to view bills, create and edit bills. They're the ones that are going to be putting those in, and they can view online. They can view the bill payments and the vendors, and they can create and edit and delete vendors, but they can't approve bills or pay bills. So that's important. One other thing about the bill clerk is, remember, if the bill payment was made outside of QBO, maybe a handwritten check or something like that, that could be recorded, but they basically can't direct the money out of QBO bill pay. So that's kind of the role this person has. Then you have the bill approver. This one's pretty simple. They're not going to create bills. They're not going to pay bills, but they can approve them. They can look at them and look and view and approve them. So that's their role, which is great. And then we have the one that can actually pay the bills. So this one is going to be able to view them, record and manage bill payments that are outside of QBO. So they could record those checks that were handwritten or whatever the case is there. They can also pay approved bills using online bill pay. So remember, the whole idea here is that they're not creating new bills, but they are paying them. So really having that segregation of duties, that's what this is all about. Because again, we're now directing somebody's money. So this is really an important step to have with our clients that are needing to do this type of separation of duties here. Now, as our QBO Advanced clients scale their business, they often need to have more control over their teams. And remember, they can have up to 25 concurrent users in QBO. So being able to have custom roles to help ensure the right separation of duties, in addition to the ones we just saw on bill pay, really important for them. So these custom roles are available to QBO Advanced clients. And as you would guess, it's in the settings menu under Manage Users. There's going to be a Roles tab, and they can simply select in the top right above the grid where it says Add Roles, just like you would expect. They are then able to decide what a user is able to see and do within all the various big areas of QBO, such as banking, sales, payroll, expenses, reports, budgets, inventory, all the big things that you might think of that they want to have. So when they are creating a custom role, they can really do a bit more control. I think I've said that word like 400 times, but they can control access to various types of transactions, like invoices and all of that. They can also determine if they're just on a view only or if they can edit or delete things. Also really important to know who's able to do that. So again, in QBO Advanced, they really get to have a whole lot more control over all of our users in the system, because they can decide who can view, create, edit, or delete transactions and access various accounting features in the product. So important for our advanced clients. That's why they have this functionality in there. Phew, let's get a poll in. Our next one that we want to talk about is when one of our clients is taking advantage of the new roles in QBO Advanced that we just discussed, they ask you which role they should use for someone to create bills in QuickBooks Online. So which one of these is correct? The bill clerk, the bill payer, or the bill approver? So go ahead and answer that, and we'll tell you the answer in just a minute.
And I'm back with my question for you, Carla.
Fire away.
So I'd imagine that for your clients, being able to assign roles to the different role holders within their business sort of helps them take out some of the risk that comes with paying bills and seeing their company. Would love to get your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a big deal. Some of our clients are a bit nervous. They have gone from being a really small business where they kind of control everything. Now they're having to delegate things out, including spending money. And it's not like just a credit card, but now it's like paying bills. And so this really gives small business owners that are growing their business and scaling a lot more comfort with this. And so I'm really excited about this for our clients that are, you know, really starting to say, okay, it's time to let somebody else have the roles, but then have the reins, if you will, but then not feel like it's just completely, you know, the Wild West. So this really does give them a lot of confidence.
Oh, I love that. It means the product can grow with them. You can grow with them. They can grow. Everybody can grow.
Everybody's growing. Lots of growing. Yep, exactly right. All right. So who has the role for creating bills? Let's go ahead and give them the answer on this one. And that is the bill clerk. So they are allowed to create bills, but they can't approve or pay them. So that is a wrap on this particular lesson, talking about multiple conditions and history in our workflows, as well as the new bill pay roles and other custom roles that they can do in QBO Advanced. Okay.
We're cruising in to lesson 3. And this is a fun one because we get to go into the world of reports, which I know is sort of the foundation of all things advisory. So very excited to get into this lesson.
Yeah. And we start out with something that's kind of near and dear to a lot of our clients, which is project-based reports. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of those modern views for reports, which I know some of us are like, oh, the reports change, but I think you're going to find out that you actually really like them and they do so much more than we thought. So I think you're going to love it. And then we're going to get into adding custom reports and charts to management reports. And then one that, oh my goodness, I think we're going to get giddy all over, and that is doing multi-company reporting with Spreadsheet Sync. So we're going to dive into this. So project-based reports. So I happen to have a firm that works with some construction clients, and we do a bit of project-based reporting. So I was really excited to see that we're starting to get even more of these. Previously, when we selected a project, we could get project-specific reports, but running it across all projects was a little less than exciting, and that has changed. So now we have new reports that allow us to see information across all reports. And these have been things that feedback has been provided, and here we are with these new reports. And I really am excited that Intuit's really listening to what we're providing and really delivering on that in this particular update. So I'm super excited about that. But what you're going to see is that there's a lot deeper information in there that really help us understand project profitability and keep things on track with our clients. These project-based clients really need us to help them in so many ways. So now, instead of extracting data into spreadsheets and all these other things, we're really diving into some great detailed reports. So let me launch my sample company one more time, and let's go take a look at this and see what it's all about. So again, I'm going back over to my sample company where I have been playing around with these reporting and projects. So I'm going to go to projects down here in our left navigation, and this is a list of some projects that we've been working on. Now, one of the things that we can do is, obviously what we did before was I would go into a project just like you normally would, and we would see that it says project reports. So that's probably one of the first things that I want to go to, and I'm going to scroll on down, and these are some of the ones that we've seen on a per project basis, but now you can see reports for all projects are here as well. This particular report, the estimate versus actuals by project, is going to show me this for all the projects. So yes, Little Cabin in the Woods, and yes, I sing the song in my head every time I say it. So we have this one, and I can see the account and the product and service that it's going to. So this is like the GL account. These are the products and services that are tied to that. So that's really helpful. And another way that I really like being able to look at our P&L, I can see this, but now I can also see the product or service here. So it's a little bit more detail on that. And then I can see this other one as well and be able to look at this. So this is the name of another project. And so as is this one. So really great to be able to see what's going on with this and be able to look at the total estimated cost, what are the actual costs, and what is that difference, the total estimated income, total actual income, and that income difference as well. Now you'll notice this is one of those new modern views. We're going to talk about that again in a second, but you'll also see that I can do some things with this, like schedule the report. Maybe every Monday we send that out to our project manager. You can export or print it. And then there's some other general options as well that you can look at and even do some filtering as well. So again, really pretty exciting report for us to be able to see this and get into some details there. Now, I also have another report down here that I think is worth taking a look at, which is the work in progress by project. This gives me a glance, an at-a-glance view of the progress of each project. So the other one was a little bit more detailed and looking at estimated costs, actual costs, but now this one is a little bit more summarized. So I don't have all those accounts and product codes in here. So I really like this one as well. Really great view here for our clients that are on QBO Advanced, being able to see these types of reports. And then the last one that I want to look at real quick is the estimates and progress invoicing summary by project. So really, really helpful. Again, estimates and progress invoicing. So this is when your client is using progress invoicing, right? So we have a an estimate that we sent them, and we started invoicing off of that. You can see whatever that progress is, what's been done so far with that, and if it's been paid or not, which I really like that that's added on there as well. I know that we have some clients that will have an estimate, they've invoiced it, but they only pay commissions if it's actually been paid yet. So that's kind of nice to have that showing here as well. So really great to be able to stay on top of not only the billing for the project, but also if it's been paid. So invoices need to be approved or closed before they're included in this report. So if they're in the process of invoicing, it's not going to show, but once it's been saved and approved, then it's all good to go. So I really like these great project reports, seeing it in summary. Now, you guys probably were doing like I was doing sometimes, and we would run our P&L by customer, and that's how we were seeing some of those reports. Basically, our project profitability, we took off the filter and ran it for all customers. But I love these summary reports and the fact that I now have more reports that I can do based on all of the projects, but being able to summarize those and see them a little bit differently. So I encourage you to check this out and play with this for those that are using projects quite a bit with your clients like we are. All right, so let's head back over to our slides and take a look at our next section where we talk a bit about the modern view and adding custom charts to reports. Now, I'm going to stay in slides here for a minute because, you know, I get talking about reporting and I would end up having to have somebody kind of pull me back in. So we're going to be seeing that modern reports are, or the modern view is what they're called, or the classic view. Kind of reminds me of Cook Classic back in the day, but I think I just aged myself. Anyway, so modern view. So this is all about those new reports that are really enriched with a lot more information, including the ability to add custom reports and charts within them. We talked about in our last session about how those KPIs on our dashboard are visual and our clients love those. Well, now we can put some of those visuals into the reports themselves. So instead of spending hours manually creating charts from the data, we can go ahead and put those right into QBO. So go to reports and then choose to create a new report. Once you've done that, you can create a chart and then you can start to build your own custom report. So we don't get into that right now. That's been, you know, trained on in other places, but now we can start using that modern view and go in and do all types of things like dragging and dropping fields, adding filters and charts. And I just find that it's actually a whole lot easier to customize reports now. And then you can save that customized report within our organization and share that across our team. They can see that. And we can run reports and get insights a whole lot faster. Don't forget to use the grouping option, which really allows you to do subtotals within your reports. I have found that to be super helpful. And of course, sometimes we need to use the filtering to get to certain entries. So for example, you might want to run a report just on sales of items that are under, you know, the revenue recognition. So you might group those together. You might filter just for those or not include those or whatever the case might be. So of course, in here, you can also do other types of things to the reports. Go play around with this. Don't be shy. You're not going to break something by running a report. So go play with reports in QBO. I don't think we spend enough time just tinkering with things like that. So I encourage you to do that. You have permission now. Okay, so also don't forget that you can enrich the management reports you create for your clients by including custom reports and charts from the custom report builder. So you can even do this from the table view or the chart view. It's the same process either way. So within the chart view tab, select more actions and then add to management reports. So super easy to do that from here, or within the management report, you can pull things in. You can decide whether you want to create a new report or add the data to an existing one. And it will obviously notify you and say, you know, it's been done, but it's always great to just, again, I can't encourage you enough, tinker with these reports. The sample company for QBO Advanced or in a sample company your firm may have, but these are reports. Go play with these and see what all is there, because you may be pleasantly surprised with all you get to do in there. But okay, we got to get into multi-company reporting in Spreadsheet Sync. This is probably like, whoa, super exciting. So Spreadsheet Sync is an add-in that sends data back and forth between QuickBooks and Microsoft Excel in Office 365. And basically, you're able to use Excel to run reports, which, I mean, hello, we're accounting professionals. Of course, we love playing with Excel. So what does this look like? So Spreadsheet Sync is now available with multi-entity reporting. So what does this mean? So if you have, say, 10 clients and they're all related, right? They're all from the same kind of group of companies, and one of them is in QBO Advanced, then that one QBO Advanced company can use Spreadsheet Sync and access all the other clients that are related to them and put them into one report. So how is this going to work? So one of the things that you're going to see, by the way, is that with Spreadsheet Sync, remember I said the data goes back and forth, it stays connected. So let's say that the first company, their books are done, but maybe not the second company. You can go and have this set up and then just hit refresh. So when the second company's books are updated, it will update that report. So that's pretty cool. So to get this started, you're going to go into the reports area of QBO Advanced and go to Spreadsheet Sync. Then you're going to select to create new report and then select that you want that new report in a spreadsheet. So you see that in the top right corner there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to see that it's going to open up Excel for you. You're going to need to say, yes, trust this add-in, and then go ahead and select to sign in and be able to sign into your Intuit account, which is pretty simple enough for us to do. We do that a lot. Then it's going to ask us what we want to be doing. And so what you're going to see is that you could just run a regular report with Spreadsheet Sync, which is great. You can add and edit their company data, or you can run a multi-company report, and that's exactly what it would look like. Of course, you also have the budgeting thing, but we're not talking about that right now. We're going to talk about the multi-company reporting. So what's going to happen on this next one? You're going to tell it that you need to create a new group that is going to allow you to say, these are the 10 entities or however many that you're wanting to put together into this group for multi-company reporting. So then what you're going to do is you're going to select the appropriate QBO companies from the connected companies list and give the group a name. So you might call it, XYZ company group and do that. Once you've done that, then you're going to exit and relaunch Spreadsheet Sync, and then it will load this. Now, once you've done that, you're going to select Run Multi-Company Reports again, and then it's going to ask you what kind of report you want to run. So again, you connect and do your group, exit, come back in, tell it to run the multi-company reports one more time, and you're good to go. So which kind of reports can you run? You can run a balance sheet that covers multiple periods, a P&L for multiple periods, a trial balance for multiple periods, or a P&L by class. Now, there are more reports that you could potentially run with Spreadsheet Sync if you did it on a single company. These are the reports that you can run when you're doing multiple companies. So just be aware of that. I didn't want you to think that's all we could do in Spreadsheet Sync. So anyway, once you've selected whichever one that is, you go ahead and select Run Company, and ta-da, you now have a column for each of the entities that you had in your group. So really exciting to be able to see this. You can format it. You could do the wrap text for the title and all the kind of fun things with that. Really, really exciting to be able to create consolidated P&L budgets in Excel, sync them to QBO Advanced. I mean, there's just so many different things that we can do, but the fact that we can get consolidated reporting out of a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet using Spreadsheet Sync to QBO, super, super exciting. So I know that some of you are really holding yourselves back right now from going and doing this right now, just like I am. So you just get to dream about that for the moment, and then you can go do it in a little bit. As soon as we get through with the session, I want you to go tinker, go play with that. So let's do a polling question. You're talking to one of your QBO Advanced clients, and they mentioned that they're interested in knowing how their projects are doing compared to their original projections. How would you advise them to find this information? A, you would show them to run an invoices versus estimates report. Or B, you would tell them to run an estimates versus actual report. C, they should run a work in progress by project report. Or D, you'll need to prepare a custom report for them. So I will let you go ahead and answer that. And we'll give you a couple minutes or a couple seconds, I guess, to do that.
60 seconds to be precise.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Carla, as folks do that, I happen to know that you have a few clients in the construction industry. So, I'd imagine that you are loving project based reports. But how has this helped with your conversation with those clients?
Well, I find that our clients sometimes are really in the weeds of those projects, but then there are times when they're like, I need to see big picture what's going on as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes, we might work with the project manager who's really focused on one or two projects, but the owner might be, across the board looking at how things are going, or they have certain times of the year that they're looking at that. This just makes it so much easier to have those conversations and be ready a lot faster than we were before, because we were running reports and doing some things and Excel spreadsheeting, all of the things. And now this just makes it so much faster to do that and really feel prepared for those conversations as their advisor. And I think that's part of what I like about it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see what our correct answer is. You've had time to answer. And so the correct answer is that they should run the estimates versus actuals report. So I know in this session, you guys have probably been super excited because we have talked about some great stuff. Project-based reports, modern view for reports, adding custom reports and charts all over the place. And then, of course, spreadsheet sync with multi-company reporting. Super fun stuff. All right.
Well, what did we say in session 1? Best for last? I think that may be true of this session as well. So we're in lesson 4 of 4. We are nearing the end, but we have an awesome section teed up on the updated 1099 preparation process. Lots of exciting updates to this flow. So I'll let Carla take it over the finish line.
All right. Well, I don't know about you guys, but 1099 season, as we say, I feel like kind of like tax season is just getting longer, right? And so we know that there's lots of new rules and things going on related to 1099s, including the fact that now if you're filing 10 or more forms a year across W-2s and 1099s, you have to e-file them. So it's more important than ever that our clients are really embracing the automation and the e-file capabilities that QBO already has. And I feel like QuickBooks has just come so far on 1099s. I love it. So in this session, we're going to really be talking about this new workflow and how QBO is now able to better help us prepare a file and, yes, correct 1099s in QBO. So let's dive in and take a look at what that's going to be all about. So there's a new 1099 workflow. There are new reports that have been provided that we get to use as it relates to these 1099s. There's also going to be flexibility in filing these 1099s. And again, super excited that we can now e-file corrections for free. Now, throughout this section, you're going to notice that there's a little bit of fine print on some of these things. So please make sure that you look at that, because I don't want to read all that fun stuff to you, but it is important stuff. So I just wanted to make sure and point that out. So on the new 1099 workflow, let's start there. So either from the vendors or the contractors page, you can go into the expenses section in QBO. I think I said that backwards. Go to the expenses section and then vendors or contractors. And from either one of those, either vendors or contractors, that's how you select to go to prepare 1099s. I think that part's probably the same if I remember correctly. So what is the first thing that we're going to be doing? Well, this is actually a step that I feel like we might skip through a little bit too fast, and we shouldn't, because this really needs to be checked before we continue on. My understanding is that the main reason that 1099s are rejected by the IRS is that the company name isn't matching the company's EIN. Now, if you're like me, sometimes our clients will tell us their DBA name, or they didn't put in the entire corporate name, things like that. It's really worth double checking that the details here are correct. It should be the legally registered company name so that it matches the IRS records. And so if that's correct, then great, confirm the information and start the filing process. Now, what's going to happen on this next screen is that we need to select the accounts that have been used to pay vendors and contractors. So you would select the select accounts and view a list of all those accounts, use the check boxes next to all of those accounts and add them to the 1099 preparation that we're going through here in this workflow. For each account, you then are going to need to specify which box on the 1099 form the values will be added to. So is it 1099 MISC or NEC or whatever? If there happens to be one where you're like, oops, didn't mean to add that one, use the little trash can, throw it away, and yeah, that removes it. So once you've added all the accounts that have been needed to pay for vendors and contractors, then just go to the next page as you would expect. And then we're going to be reviewing all the recipients and the payment totals. So if any details need to be changed, then you simply click the little pencil icon. The consistency is awesome because we all know the pencil means we can edit things, right? And then once that's done, you'll save that information. And whatever you put here does update the contractor or vendor record. Now, notice that we have email addresses in here, and we do want those because we want to be able to email those 1099s out to our vendors. I know that we can't always do that. And yes, there will be a way to have those sent to them in paper format, but it sure is a whole lot easier and cheaper to do it through email, right? Not always possible. I realize, believe me. We work with a lot of contractors, right? So, okay, then the total number for any of the 1099s, you can click on that and see some details there. It will show reportable payments only by default. So if you need to, you can also select the option to see non-reportable payments, and that will show you any that perhaps maybe didn't get to the $600 limit, so they were under that limit, or they were paid by credit card or Venmo or PayPal, meaning another way that those are going to get reported to the IRS. So we don't typically include any that are marked as paid by credit card, Venmo, or PayPal. You can also switch to the Not Tracked for 1099 tab to see any vendors or contractors that are not set to receive a 1099. What a big deal this is, because what we did before was we would have to kind of run all these things. Now on this screen, we're able to see this so clearly, not only who is normally going to get a 1099 but isn't because they didn't meet the threshold or they were paid another way. But now I can also look at somebody who I maybe should be sending a 1099 to, but they're not marked for that. So this is really, really helpful. And yes, on that tab that says Not Tracked for 1099, I can add them to the tracked list. So once you're good, this list is complete, everything's filled out, you're all good to go, click next, and then you're going to be able to review this one more time. You can see a list of all the 1099s you've prepared, preview the form, view the summary, all the good things, make corrections if needed. Of course, there's a back button because that's, at any point we want to be able to adjust and correct things so that it is correct, right? And then it tells us that we're ready to go ahead and file those 1099s. Now, remember, you can mail them if you want to, but otherwise you need to e-file those. And of course, you can do that through QBO. So if you have a situation like I might with some of our clients, we're not going to be able to do this all in one sitting because we're going to get halfway through and find out there's a vendor that we thought we had the information, but it's not in there, or the W-9 wasn't loaded, or whatever the thing is. You can always save your progress and come back to where you left off. So that's really helpful. So I really like this workflow. I am super excited about the area where we can review the recipients and kind of look at it in a couple different ways to make sure we have all the ones that we need there. Now, as we're preparing for our wonderful 1099 season, we really do have some reports that would be super helpful to have. And some of those have been absolutely brought in. So during the select accounts used to pay contractors and vendors step, so when we're the very first step, you can run a report of accounts used to pay 1099 vendors and run reports of all vendor payments. So really handy to access those right in that first step. That is super helpful to be able to access those reports. This is really going to give you some insights on which accounts and transactions should be included in the 1099 forms. This is an example of all vendor payments report. So that's kind of helpful to be able to see that. Now, if we have a situation where some of our clients are going to be using things like QuickBooks Payroll or contractor payments or bill pay premium or elite, the cost of e-filing 1099s through QBO is included in their subscription. Let me say that again. If they're doing QBO payroll, if they're doing contractor payments, or if they are doing bill pay premium or elite, 1099 cost is included in that subscription. Y'all, that's a big deal. That's kind of a big deal. Now, if any of our other QBO clients are needing to do QBO 1099 filing, then there is a fee on those. And obviously there's going to be links for you guys to look up all the gory details on pricing, but I'll tell you, but just double check those numbers. If they do like 1 to 3 forms, it's like $5 a piece, $4.99 a piece. If it's 4 to 20, then it's like $3.99. And then over 21, it's $1.99 each. So again, they're going to be able to prepare and see all of that pricing and information. They're not hiding that, but we just think it's pretty cool that there's some subscriptions where it's included. So that's kind of handy. So when we get ready to see how we're going to file, and you're ready to actually click the button and say, let's go ahead and file it, then you're going to see there's a list of if they're just e-filing or if there's contractor payments, you're going to see all the details on that. So go ahead and walk through that piece of it. And again, I'm not going to belabor all of this, but I wanted you to be able to see this. The cool thing about this is this will default to being billed to you as the accountant, and you can pay for their 1099 e-filing. Or if you want to, you can switch to the client's payment method and then they can pay for it. So the stored payment method for the client would be charged instead, which I actually think would be pretty awesome in many situations. So to see the 1099s you've submitted, you're going to be able to view those and go, or after the fact, go to the taxes section and go to the 1099 filings area. So let me mention where that is. So once you've e-filed your 1099 forms, go to the taxes tab in the navigation and go to 1099 filings. That's where you're going to see what's gone on and what the status is, if it's pending, accepted, or rejected. And if any of them have been rejected, then obviously corrections are needed. Then you're able to do that right there inside of QBO. So how is that going to happen? Well, you'd be able to go in here and choose to refile those forms, and you can just select void forms and then just kind of walk through that process again. And then you e-file those. And of course, that is not going to be at an extra charge. If they have accepted it, but now you need to go in and take a look and make a correction, then you would just simply go in, and then on the action column, you're going to see that there is a way to correct those. So maybe they filed and it was the wrong amount, and so you have to go update it. So that's what you're able to do there on the correction by going to the action column, and there's not a charge for that. Now, the big thing that I always want you to think about is this can be done for one contractor or one vendor at a time. If there's a correction that needs to be made, you're usually doing it one at a time. And so there is a support for the corrections for those 1099 boxes and amounts, form types, all those different types of things. So you'll just want to double check and walk through that process. And again, it's a wizard that's going to really help you go through that. But when you're finally ready, you're going to e-file that corrected form and then send that corrected form to the contractor or vendor yourself, because that corrected form won't automatically be sent by QBO. You'll need to do that. But at least it's going to get that filing done for us. And that is a huge win. And I am so excited about that. Now, the 1099 process is a big deal, but I know we're finishing out our time. So let me get you another poll. And then I know Jacqueline has some closing things to tell you about as we finish up all of our recertification training. So if we have a client that told us that one of our contractors has said there's a mistake on the 1099 that was e-filed through QBO, it's not showing the correct total of payments the company's made to them, how can this be corrected? Your options are in the 1099 filings tab of the taxes section, select void to cancel the 1099 and start again. A paper correction needs to be filed directly with the IRS. C, the client must pay a fee for filing the correction. Then the updates can be made by selecting correct under actions next to the 1099 in that 1099 filing section, or D, in the 1099 filing section of taxes, select correct under actions, complete the 1099 again, and then you can e-file the correction for free. So go ahead and take a moment to answer that.
Well, Carla, I'm sure no client ever has made a mistake. So you've never needed or wanted to use this feature, right?
Never. I mean, just perfect 1099s go out. Oh my goodness. I think we get twitchy at the end of January as 1099s are going out. And then in February or March or May or June, we start hearing about some things. But it's so great that now we can go back in, see those, make corrections. It just is such a game changer for us. Yeah. All right, well, let's see how we are supposed to correct this one, and we'll give out the answer, and then I'm going to be able to turn it back over to you, Jacqueline. So the correct answer was the last one. In the 1099 filings tab of the taxes section, select the action column, go to correct, and then complete that 1099 again, and then that e-filing will be done for you for free. So in this lesson, all about 1099s. And so I'm super excited about all the updates that are happening there, including new reports, and really being able to bill our clients for it too is also pretty exciting. Off to you now, Jacqueline.
Well, Carla, thank you so much. This is, again, the second session. So, Carla, so grateful to you and your expertise and training across both sessions 1 and sessions 2. And thanks to you for tuning in and for all of your hard work to prepare for the recertification exam. So I'll quickly touch on next steps and then send you on your way. All right, quick reminder, please do download the handouts. You'll have, just toggle over to that handout section of the Q&A panel, if you will, where you can download the deck for this session so you can study up, as well as the What's New in QuickBooks Online handout that shows that comprehensive bird's eye view over all of the features that have shipped over the past 12 months. And there's that little badge by the ones that'll be tested on in the exam. All right, so the recertification exam, this should feel familiar from session 1. Quick reminder that the deadline to complete the exam is 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. You can access the exam by logging into QuickBooks Online Accountant, then navigating to the Pro Advisor tab on your left-hand nav, and then from there, that'll pop you right into the training portal. You'll need an 80% passing score to pass the exam, and you'll have 3 attempts to do so before a short cooldown period kicks in. And before we end, we do have a final poll. If you could kindly provide this webinar score from 1 to 10, it's just a quick way to give us feedback on how we're doing to make sure that we can continue to improve and deliver value to our community. So just 1 is low, 10 is high. Pop in your thoughts. We won't reveal the answer to this poll. All right, hopefully that's enough time. We will also have a Survey Monkey out your way within, the next few days here, so that way you can give more robust feedback to the team. Finally, collect your CPE if you're in the market for that and you met the engagement criteria. We'll email that to you within a few business days, so keep your eye out from an email from intuit@theonlineexpo.com. Be sure to check your junk folder. And if you have any questions at all on CPE or otherwise, you can reach out to our team at accountant_training@intuit.com. So with that, let me say thank you so much again. Best of luck as you take the recertification exam, and we know you're going to crush it. So thank you. Bye.